The first sale is yourself, and the first sold is yourself. If you cannot do that for yourself and have the resilience, especially during tough times, then you are definitely not selling anybody else.
I would love to call on Sarah. She's like smiling.
Let's go, Sarah.
Hello, Natalie and Brandon. I am an Australian flower farmer. I'd like to know, how do you retain your top producers if they see your business as a stepping stone to something more professional?
It's so great you asked this question.
Somebody else just asked us in the chat too.
And so here's how, Sarah. Your picture has to be so big, your top performers can see themselves staying and succeeding inside of your picture. So you can all go watch a podcast I did with the president of my company when I sold it, Mason Walker, on the Dawson show. And we did a 2-part podcast. He had 8 different bosses and wanted to quit 8 different times. And I kept reminding him, learn what you can from them and be better than them with people. They're good technically, but they're not great with people, or they're good with people, but they're not great technically. And then I'll spend money to develop you technically. You can learn from anybody that's a boss. A good boss, a bad boss, doesn't matter. When you stop learning, you stop developing. If you watch his ascension, all of a sudden he becomes president of the company. When we sell the business, he made $12 million. He doesn't have to work the rest of his life as an employee, right? But if I was sitting there telling him, we're only going to build a $5 million business and you need to work harder and you're probably going to make the same money you're making right now, he would have left me. So what you need to do is paint this massive picture. Natalie, in a sense, doesn't count because we're husband and wife, but in a sense, the reason she married me is because I had this massive picture of what I wanted to do in my life, and she could see herself in that picture versus just, I just want to exist and whatever and everything, because she is such a high performer. So if I would have been like, I'm just satisfied with what I got and everything's fine, we would have had a relationship, but she would have moved on because it wouldn't have been big enough for her, right? Because she couldn't see her own success inside of it. And now she's flourishing, running huge teams of people and developing things and building things because that's really what she wanted, but she didn't know exactly how to get there. What I wanted was a partner who wanted to do that stuff, but I didn't know how to find them. So what we were able to do by communicating and sharing this massive constructive vision for each other, we were able to attract to each other and magnetize, right? So now when you look at the talent that she and I have accumulated around us, we're talking about people running $100 million companies, billion-dollar companies, $10 billion companies, $50 billion companies. Well, why did we attract to Grant and Elena Cardone? Because when we met them and attracted to them, they were talking about 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, a trillion. Like their vision's so big, we could say to ourselves, you know what, if we partnered with them, we could still have our success inside of their success. And where business owners get in trouble is they get too comfortable and then they stop talking about where they're going, and the people that they're reliant on stop feeling like they can have their success inside of your success. So they start looking outside of you. And then one day you show up to work and your people are like, hey, we're leaving you. Thanks a lot. And it's a break point. You actually go backwards because you were so reliant on them.
Grant puts it really simply in one of my favorite books of all time, Sell or Be Sold. Your team members are either being sold on from maybe themselves, from their significant other, from some childhood dream. I want to go off and do something different. Or you're selling them on why this is the greatest opportunity. And it never scares me any longer when a team member in an interview is like, one day I want to be a business owner, or one day I see myself doing something that's different than what Cardinal Ventures is currently doing, because I know that I get this amazing opportunity with them working with us to sell them on a different vision for themselves. And in all honesty, something that's likely grander and bigger than what their vision is, because they don't see the same things that you can see. And it's oftentimes even more difficult than people realize to start a business if that's one of the things that they see themselves doing. And you have to be honest about like, hey, I could allow you to do this inside our environment if you were a top performer, if you hit these metrics, if you made this contribution, and you could take a part of this and be a future partner, not just working in an entry-level role, but this is what these requirements will look like in all of these different milestones. So I would ask, are you selling or are you being sold that that's what they're wanting?
And I would tell every business owner, read that book, because the first sale is yourself and the first sold is yourself. If you cannot do that for yourself and have the resilience, especially during tough times, then you are definitely not selling anybody else. And when your employees start selling you on what they don't want to do, you're in trouble.
And one of my favorite Grant Cardone sayings on this, and this is more for sales teams, but it directly ties to what we're talking about. To the extent you are sold, you will sell. To the extent you are sold, you will sell. So if you are sold on the opportunities that exist inside your organization for up and coming team members, you will sell them on why that is the greatest opportunity of a lifetime.
I was just on the phone with somebody that has handled almost all of John Maxwell's stuff for years. And he said, the one resounding theme is that you are so sold on what you can do to help people. And your confidence is so over the roof that when you talk to other people about it, they cannot deny getting sucked into that vortex and believing it, because that's how convinced you are, which then convinces them. And he's interviewed like 30 or 40 people that we've worked with from my previous business and now. And the reason this is important is what Natalie's saying.
To the extent you are sold, you will sell. This is in all things in life. To the extent that I'm sold on having a quesadilla tonight, I'm going to sell him on us going to the restaurant that makes the best quesadillas. That's a silly example, but as it relates to your team members, it's like, man, am I really sold on the opportunity that my organization gives to my employees? And if you're not sold on it, what do you do in order to create that? How do you gain confidence in that area?